our people really don't understand that we are this close to literally not having black-owned media covering news and information. So that's why I don't spend lots of time on sports entertainment. We got lots of that. I
It's
say, hey,
covered. It's
if
covered.
y'all want that, I don't give a damn who gets married, who dating who have a baby, who broke up. I tell people, if y'all want that, y'all can go somewhere else. This whole thing is an effort to defund Black America. People don't understand how deep this is. Nearly every black nonprofit is being impacted because their whole deal is don't even put a black in it. I was at the Black Women's Expo speaking there. Average sponsors were like, hey, can you take black out of the name?
They don't want to touch it.
So black newspapers. I was talking to one massive drop off because of attacks on DEI. They're afraid to sponsor anything. Speakers bureaus reported during Black History Month a 60 to 70% decrease. You're talking about they're canceling billions in grants, which now funds a whole infrastructure of nonprofit entities. So now we're talking black business, black nonprofits, black owned media, black individuals. Now we're talking about 300,000 black women losing jobs. So I keep saying what we're facing is a massive effort to defund Black America. Civil rights infrastructure, economic infrastructure, academia, health, every aspect of Black America, that's what MAGA is targeting. And here's the problem. We got to deal with this at least for the next 3.5 years. Because corporate America, they have weaponized it to the point where your telecommunications company, you got to deal with the FCC. Brendan Carter, FCC chair, following Trump saying, I'm not going to approve of any acquisitions because you support DEI, because you sponsor black events. So telecommunications companies are freaking out and have literally said, hey, we can't sponsor that because the FCC is looking at everything that we do. They are weaponizing the federal government against Black America. And too many of us, and I love to dance, I'll step in a heartbeat, but too many of us are busy line dancing, talking about boots on the ground. And I love the song. Mm-hmm. I love the song. I jam it all the time. But our boots on the ground have got to be also being used when it comes to politics and what's happening socially.
Now, can you dig it?
Hell no, nigga. I can't dig it. Now, who you supposed to be?
Oh, that's Black Dynamite.
I ain't asked you, nigga. Shut up.
Ouch. Right in the heart with a silver bullet.
Yeah. I think they plotting on man. Don't wipe their feet when they enter the lab. I feel a cold stab.
What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. More importantly, you saw the clip. Why there is a new black media. Some maybe decade ago, maybe, you saw the end of newspapers. A lot of newspapers were closing because people were getting their news from social media. So now you see, newspapers have websites and subscriptions and stuff like that. And of course, YouTube blew up. And YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, let's just say that in particular. Not you can say add TikTok to that now. There started having people who were talking about what's going on in the black community that were outside of I'll just say the old model of media. And what they had to say was very valid. It was basically outside of the box of what was allowed on television. Now, the other part was with traditional black media, the perspectives were really one-sided. Similar to, how can I say that? Like politically, it was all Democratic. It was predominantly what's going on with black women. It was predominantly socially, we need to work when it comes to black men. We need to worry about the brothers in jail, not necessarily the brothers who are out in the real world. Ooh, my dog, mad. Shut up. But it became a running trope that became a running joke. Like, so what you started getting was people who was like, this is not where I'm going with this. And I remember one of the catalysts for this was Trayvon Martin, because if I remember correctly, I believe I do, there were YouTubers. Forgot is a young woman, that young lady, she doesn't make YouTube anymore, I don't think. And a young brother. And they were talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And then other people on YouTube started talking about it. And it became so big on social media, then it got to the news. So that, in my opinion, was one of the major catalysts to the new black media, because it was like, you know what? Since y'all not gonna talk about what's going on with us, we gonna talk about what's going on with us. So people, let's just say, like Roland Martin, like these other websites like the Griot, they were talking about things. Essence Ebony, they were talking about things, but they had to actually walk on eggshells because of sponsorships, or they didn't want to, burn any bridges, or put themselves in a compromising position, because you might get canceled before cancel culture was a thing. You get what I'm saying? That was a a real reality. So then you had a bunch of people who were outside of that system that was like, well, I mean, I'm not even a part of that. So if I want to bring up these issues and these talking points, and what the black community can't say on uh, television or in the media, even not necessarily the daily news, but even primetime television, even HBO, stuff like that, we can say what they can't. You know, and the new black media started saying the things that they couldn't, and then they became competition for the old black media model. That's what happened. You know, because even with the political aspect of it, it was kind of like fear mongering. Like, oh, if you don't do what we say do, the white folks gonna do this, and it's gonna be it's gonna be over. It's gonna be over. And you had a younger generation of people that's not gonna work with, because they didn't see any any real results from the fear mongering people into doing what, let's just say, Roland Martin wanted, or Al Sharpton would have wanted. And I'm using Roland Martin for an example because I think he was on Al Sharpton's show maybe a week ago, and he was talking. Al Sharpton and Ricky Smiley, one of them. I remember I was driving to the gym, and he said he was on the show and he was talking about the political climate. And he said, "Well, we do have an issue, and the issue is when black people see Republicans say something, they do it. Even it doesn't have to be right what they're doing, but if they say they're going to do something, they do it." And he's like, well, the issue with Democrats when it comes to black people is, they say a lot, but they don't do it. So, you basically have lost the trust of a lot of black voters who voted predominantly Democrat. And that was something that came from the new black media that he wasn't necessarily on board with saying a while ago. You get what I'm saying? And even with the competition and the going back and forth with certain people, some of these talking points are like, yeah, the old crew of media that are black are gonna have to at some point go, okay, this new black media has some points. Because what it looks like is when the newer black media is right, it's a battle. and it's unnecessary. But it's like, oh well, you other people, you got sponsors. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to keep your show going, and you're trying to be on the air, and you're playing the game. Let's just say that, and that's the model you're used to, and it's understandable. But just because you know places like the Griot and became are looked at in some ways as gossip sites, they're not really helping black people. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, that is celebrity talk and gossip and you know um, relationship topics. Because what winds up happening is a lot of what happened, this in my opinion, when you see black social media, basically you have new what you see is a lot of people doing their spin on new black media or their spin on the black manosphere. That it's one or the other. Sometimes it's a mix of both, but it's one or the other. Stop. Sit. Sorry about that. It's either one or the other. So, and people make it more palatable because you know the people who were, I say, in the new black media, there's some shadow banning, but they do have a consistent audience. Like Manosphere, it's a lot of shadow ban stuff. So you have the ability to take this information and repackage it, but people know where you got it from. You get what I'm saying? People know where you got it from. Whether you got it from Tariq Nasheed, whether you got it from the Advice Show, or Philip Scott, or Professor Black Truth, or Torian Rain, or the Black Authority. Like people know where you get these things from. And that's what the new black media. I know I'm missing people. So my apologies. Those are the top names that come to mind off the top of my head. But at the end of the day, a lot of what's going on nowadays is the old media model is not trusted because it's not actually objective. It's not actually fair. Like, Fox News, fair and balanced, which meant unfair and unbalanced. But that's what media, has done to the point where people go, I'd rather get it from a regular person who I think is smart enough to actually disseminate information and to actually tell me why this is important and why this may be unimportant. And they might be right about some things. And sometimes people are wrong about things too, but they have a better pulse on what's going on with the grassroots of our group and our society. I'm not gonna say the older media sold out. I'm gonna say they've lost touch. They're probably more in touch with people 50 and up than they are 49 and below. You get what I'm saying? So that's why there's a new black media. And I'll leave it at that. You can tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Peace.